By accident.
All right, we're recording.
Thank you. I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Sprague Subcommittee of the MARB. It is May the 6th, and we do have a quorum. I am Kimberly Kennison. I'm the designee for Secretary McCaw, and with me is Christine Shaw, the designee for Treasurer Wooden. The time of the meeting start was 10:04. And the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from March 25th special meeting. If I could get a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Christine. Second. Mark, can I get a second on the minutes?
Yes, so moved.
Thank you. Any discussion? None. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We can see everybody, so I'm going to go with that. Save Julian today. All right, the minutes have been approved. Next item on the agenda is the review and a discussion and possible action of labor contract. And sorry, I'm just going to move to that. The contract expired on June 30th. This labor contract, I don't know what MEUI is. Hold on, I'm looking for that. Municipal Employees Union Independent Local Union 506. And this particular union contract, successor contract, goes through June of 2023. It covers public works employees. There's only 4 members that are included in this union. MARB has the authority to approve it, reject it, or take no action. The statutory timeline for MARB is until June the 9th to take action if we choose to do so. Julian has provided us with a cover memo that was provided in our materials, and included in that with the materials is markup language, the final contract, final financial impact analysis, and some comparables. So either the town or Julian, would you like to walk us through your cover memo of the contract and hit the highlights? Cheryl, would you like to take that, or do you want me to have Julian do a follow-up?
No, that's fine. The contract includes a 2% wage increase, general wage increase over each of the 3 years, retroactively back to July 1st of 2020. That was already budgeted into our budget. It also includes the other financial object in there is an increase in the reimbursement for safety footwear from $150 a year to $175 a year. That won't become effective until July 1st of 2021. A reimbursement for clothing expenses goes from $250 a year to $300 a year. Also in July 1st, 2021. And then a new item is a reimbursement for prescription eyewear at $150 a year. There were no other financial impact changes, just some language cleanup changes that were made to the contract.
And from the health insurance side of it, the employee's contribution is staying flat through that time?
That is correct.
Getting a lot of background noise. All right, any questions concerning the contract? I think it's comparable. I have one question. Why would we agree to a retro versus just starting in the new year?
because their contract expired on June 30th, 2020. So any of the changes would go back and starting July 1st, 2020.
Okay,
Otherwise, they would have no wage increase in the 2020 calendar year. I mean,
Understand.
fiscal year. Mhm.
yeah. Any other, and was there any discussion around the possibility of increasing the partnership, their employee contribution?
There was not this year. We did talk about it, but we did not get to that.
Okay. Questions from the members?
I have no questions. I appreciate Julian's summary
Thank you.
and the explanation of the changes.
Yes. Mark, questions?
No, not really. If I started, I'd never stop, so might as well just move along.
Well, you can provide some feedback if you'd like for the future, if you're okay with this one.
Well, I think it's necessary that when you do comparables, that you show the salaries of the comparable, not just the percentage of increases. Because 2% increase retroactive is unusual, as you've stated. And 2% is within the realm, seeing as how there's no increment, the way I read it. It's okay. I'm not sure it's okay for distressed municipality, but nonetheless, it's okay. And so for the future, I would appreciate the salaries of the surrounding towns for comparable salaries of similar positions, to note if they are above the community or below the surrounding communities. Percentages don't mean anything in that regard, you know?
Okay,
But
agree.
yeah, I'm concerned about the percentage increase, but I understand the need for them to move along. Don't understand why it took them a year to do retroactive for 4 people, but that's neither here nor there. So I don't have any objection to the contract as such.
Any narrative you want to add to that? First Selectman?
No, I can certainly actually provide salaries for the full MARB by the time that meeting comes up, if that will be helpful.
Yes, please do. Okay, then can I get a motion to make a recommendation for this contract to go to the full MARB for approval?
So moved.
Thank you, Mark.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Aye. All right, that motion is passed. And that contract will go forth to the full MARB. Next item on the agenda is review and possible action of the FY22 recommended budget. And before we get started, I just would like the members to know that my goal is to really, unless we have some grueling items or outliers, I have reviewed this in full, is to be able to, at the MARB, have all budgets for FY22 ready to serve next week. But I would hope that today we can get there. And if we can't, then I would look to make sure we get it resolved before the full MARB. Okay? If that works for you. So let's talk about the FY22 budget. Who's going to start? You want the city to start, or Julian, you wanted to start with your narrative? I
Let
can give
me,
some highlights. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I can just outline process because
Perfect, thank you.
it is a little different than some of the other municipalities we work with, and the
Yes.
Board of Finance structure. The Board of Finance released its budget. They approved the budget, recommended budget last week. It goes to a public hearing, and then there's a minimum 2-week window from the point of the public hearing to the point at which the town can schedule a town meeting, which is the forum for approving the budget. And the town meeting, the voters at the town meeting also have the option of approving the budget or sending it to a referendum. And of course, if they choose to approve it at the town meeting, they can make adjustments based on feedback from the public hearing and also from the MARB as well. So there are a couple of directions it can go. I believe that at this point that the town's intent is to take its action at the town meeting without sending it to referendum, which makes the MARB role a little bit more streamlined, because based on that process, the subcommittee can provide feedback and make a recommendation today. The MARB could take action at its meeting next week, and the town would have that feedback in hand for the town meeting. So if there were proposed changes or adjustments, they could at least be considered by the town meeting at that point. And if there were any, any significant or material deviations from the MARB feedback and what the town meeting ultimately approves when it meets, the MARB would have another opportunity to take action if it needed to in June. So this seems to line up pretty well this year,
Which is nice.
which is helpful.
Yes.
And then the content of the budget is laid out in the cover. Just this highlights it's generally consistent with the most recently approved 5-year plan. The fund balance projections that would result from this budget are meet or exceed the fund balance targets from the previous 5-year plan. The proposed mill rate is a somewhat smaller hike in the mill rate than was built into the plan. However, the town did achieve considerably more grand list growth, and that actually generates, the net impact is significantly more property tax revenue as a result. Otherwise, the budget really does line up with the 5-year plan. The expenditures are in line. The education budget is at 1.5%, as we previously discussed. There is a planned use of a debt premium that was received as part of the bond issue last fall. That had been built into the 5-year plan as well. There's actually a somewhat reduced use of that bond premium in the proposed budget, which would preserve some of those resources for a future budget year. So my point being just that it generally does line up with the 5-year plan, and you received by email this morning an exhibit that lays out the projected fund balances actually over a 5-year period. But if you zero in on FY22, you can see that the fund balances using the current year projections as a starting point, the fund balance projections are and they exceed what was built into the plan last year.
Thank you for pulling that together for us too, Julian, because that's really helpful. For Selectmen, would you like to hit the highlights of your budget?
The Board of Finance was very much wanting to keep it at a $250,000 increase versus the half because of the struggles that the residents have had with COVID and financially, hoping to not put too much of an impact on them. So we did some moving around. The Board of Education, thank you, came through with it just exactly where we had wanted it to be. So we did bring in the budget, and it has a bit of a surplus built in to allow for both being able to hopefully put something towards our deficit, and if something unexpected came up, that we would have some funds to be able to cover that. And also using some of the bond premium, as Julian said, to offset some of our debt service payments. Help us make it through this year. We know that there'll be some tighter years coming, so we think this is a good amount that will serve us in getting more financially stable, as well as to help the residents. So kind of a good balance.
All right. Any questions? I'm glad to see that you built in a surplus. This is isn't that nice to be able to do that? And I'm sure you'll probably make it, but that you've come a long way in this short time that you've been with us in these few years, and it's just really, really good to see moving off that struggle, and I really want to commend the town as well as the Board of Ed for your partnership and working together rather than, separate, because I really think that that's really what's made a difference for the town's financials. And that partnership is really what's gotten us to where we are today. So that's a key, and I appreciate that from both of you.
I agree.
So I noticed in your budget for the year that you did not include any of the distressed municipality that is in the governor's budget, nor did you include any of the ARPA funding that is on the table for the town. And for the distressed municipality, if it should come through, would get the town another $260K. And ARPA would get them another 282,000, and then ARPA County 554 should all of that come to bear. And you didn't put that through. One of my suggestions would be, as we go forward and we start to discuss the 5-year plan, and for yourself, it will, some of those funds are planned to come in if they come through in fiscal year 22. I think that you should build a plan that would share your thoughts when those monies come forward, and what would you plan to do with those funds. And it can be preliminary, but at least start to get some vision and thought behind that.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, because it's going to be a lot of money, and I know that there'll be some restrictions on some of it, but at least if you can already start to pull that together, you'll be even more prepared, and then folks will understand where you want to put that funding and your vision. I did not have any specific questions for this year's 22 budget. It really, nothing jumped out to me that warranted any further discussion, to be honest with you. Julian, did you have any other questions for them on this?
No.
I wanted to make sure that we're okay.
Yeah,
So,
no, questions were answered.
Okay. Christine or Mark?
You're on mute, Mark.
Oh, thank you.
There you are.
Thank you for noticing, Christine. I took my glasses off. That did not help.
He's muted again. There he is. Okay, he's back.
Oh, he's muted again.
Okay, we're
Very
about now.
sensitive. There you go.
No, I had the same concerns you did about the money, additional dollars coming in from a variety of sources and how do you plan for that? But hopefully they will do so and it'll result favorably for them.
Yes, definitely. Christine?
I have the same interest in how they, what their aspirations are for this new money. So we look
Perfect.
forward to hearing their thoughts on that.
I agree. Superintendent, for the end of the fiscal year, the last time we spoke at the last MARB meeting, it was anticipated that you were going to, you anticipated that you would have a surplus this year of about 160 that would be going back to fund balance. Are you still on target for that?
We're actually a little bit higher than that. It would be somewhere around 180.
Oh my God, that's a blessing.
Yeah, it's better to be lucky than good. And
Yeah.
it is a blessing. So,
That is a blessing.
so, but, and then we're grateful for both, Cheryl and the Board of Finance understanding the situation we're in.
Right.
And that because of some of the things with COVID, we were able to save some money. But, you know, and they understand that that's not something that could occur over and over again.
Sure.
One of the things that we're struggling with is to get the State Department of Ed to release the ESSER 2 grant that we submitted. We actually submitted early, and we haven't heard anything. We'll be calling next week to try to push them along. And the other struggle is the American Relief Funds. We have no idea what we are to expect out of that. So it's hard to plan in advance when you don't understand what each pool of money will eventually be.
Yep, I understand.
Are there any, currently any earmarks on a portion of that? What is currently you're projecting $180,000 balance at year end. And I know at any given time there might be, you know, window projects or other, you know, sort of small to medium sized capital projects that I don't recall if you had identified any other sort of earmarks on a piece of that 180,000.
That is what we have. We have some earmarks. I mean, we expect that to be the surplus. We have some earmarks for capital non-reoccurring coming forward that we told the Board of Finance that we would be able to fund. We anticipate with all things being funded and the budget, when the budget lands, that we would be giving to the town 180 back.
Thank you.
Funding everything else.
Beautiful. Well, you just clicked on a topic was my next item to discuss. And so when you look at the fund balance projections out to the 5-year plan, and the 5-year plan was included in this packet. I know that it's still under draft, but I don't think it's that far off. There are a few things that I'd like to recommend that we include. But, you know, I think that this year, all of the good works that has happened in the past is really, as well as, you know, being fiscally responsible is really going to come to bear. So if we look at I call it the roll forward of the fund balance, and it's starting to show in FY22, which will be this particular year, that you would be adding. If you compare that to where I'm not going to look at the original 5-year plan. I'm going to look at the one that was revised because the original one wasn't on the right mark. And, you know, that's your first preliminary. So if I look at the one that we revised for last year, you'll notice that if this year's numbers come through, that the fund balance is going to grow to a level of 4.1%. And at the 5% mark, they would be required to start to pay back the MARB for some of the funding that they received, a portion of that. However, not everything has been cleaned is what I would say. The capital non-reoccurring funds has a deficit balance. So I would like to see when you revise this 5-year plan that you take that into consideration and load in a separate line for correcting from the general fund some of the funds to the capital reimbursement so that we can start to remove that deficit and then pull your percentage of savings to the fund balance down a bit. It was planned that you would be around 1.9%. I think you should take it down maybe 1% and take a look at what those numbers look like and reflush that.
Yep, certainly we will do that. That is what our intent was, that as we come back with a surplus, to at least apply a certain amount of it towards that deficit so that we can clean that up, because there's not a lot of ways to get that taken care of.
Understand. So I would state that I would adjust this 5-year plan and include that line.
Okay.
You're welcome. The other thing that you need, and I know that this was hot off the press, and I'm glad to see that you did provide us with something as a 5-year plan, is that we need a summary that includes what your assumptions are for the plan. It will make it a lot easier to be able to, communicate what your thoughts are. I would like you to incorporate some of the original, if not original, but the updated 5-year plan at the bottom, as well as what the mill rate was at the time from those two plans. So if you look at Julian's fund balance projections at the bottom, there are 2 lines that he included. Those are very important for us to take a look at, because we can look at what the original plan was, what did we revise it to, and now what is your new plan. The other thing that is missing is fiscal year 2026. To give us a 5-year plan. Okay.
Okay.
I think that is all I have.
Kim, I just have a general process question.
Sure.
Do we have a template that we can provide which kind of sets forth, because I know we've seen models of projections that do capture all the information as you noted, and maybe a sample would be helpful to the town?
Yeah. And we might have even had that last year. Christine, this is still a draft and it's not complete. So we could go back and take a look at how that was presented last year to see if it's just not fully completed yet.
If nothing, we're very consistent with the questions we ask, as you point out, and the areas of interest as they relate to the evolution and the mill rate and other metrics. So that may be helpful.
I know that this was a heavy lift for them to get this to us at the last minute, and but I'm glad that we did get something in front of our eyes. I do not, and it's not incomplete. It does definitely need a little bit more work, but for a rough, I don't even want to call it a rough draft. I would say for a draft, I think that we are, not in bad shape. I don't have further questions around the FY22. If the members, if Christine or Mark, if you do not, then I feel comfortable with entertaining and asking for a motion on the FY22 budget as recommended and recommended to the MARB.
So moved.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Mark. Further discussion? Roll call vote. Can we get a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, it has passed, and your budget will go to MARB next week.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. As far as we already discussed, I discussed the 5-year plan at the same time. I think that you have some takeaways. Do you have any questions for us?
No, I think you've given us the takeaways. We know what we need to work on. We appreciate the feedback.
Thank you. Since I have nothing else, unless anybody else has any other topics of discussion, I would then entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second,
Second?
second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Have a good day, and we appreciate that you'll pull all this together for the MARB meeting next week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Stay
everybody.
well.
Have a good
Take
day.
care.
All.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.